It is kind of weird that a talent that is this boring can be this powerful. Good morning, good evening. I hope everyone's doing great. Like previously, when we gave our feedback on the Hunter tree, we're now going to do the Survival tree specifically today. We're going to look at some legacy effects that could come into this tree, because right now this tree is pretty barren of unique effects and could easily be spruced up with some. We're going to talk about the high cost of many of the areas in the Survival tree, as well as I just wanted to point out some positives, because there is some really good things going on in this tree, and I think we can kind of have hope for the developers that they're kind of pushing in an interesting direction. It wouldn't be how I would have altered Survival coming from Shadowlands, but this is cool, and this is like worth celebrating and being like, hey, this has the potential. So although most of it is not yet implemented, at this moment we can look to the future and think, yeah, this is some hopeful ideas that our developers are working with. So really quickly, let's point out some good interactions that have finally come. Guerrilla Tactics and Butchery. These two have been on the same line for a very long time in our talent rows, and not possible to take with one another. However, they seem absolutely perfect to work with each other. For those who don't know, Butchery is just Carve with 3 charges. This works really well to just rapidly lower the cooldown of Wildfire Bombs. However, without Guerrilla Tactics, you only had 1 charge of bombs, so this massive rapid reduction just kind of went wasted. And if you ever had Torghast where you've had Butchery and Guerrilla Tactics, it is the most fun AoE you can probably have as a Survival Hunter. So these two being available to pick at the same time is awesome. Kudos to them. And then also a big positive coming up is the new Coordinated Assault and Spearhead. For those who don't know, Coordinated Assault in the way you know it is now gone. Coordinated Assault in how you know it in Shadowlands is actually closer to Spearhead. And to take a long story short, these are 2 offensive cooldowns. One's a 2-minute, one's a 1.5. And the idea is that you are going to bounce between these 2 offensive cooldown windows, and each of them is going to require a different set of abilities to prolong the window. So, as a standard right now, Birds of Prey in our Coordinated Assault builds. This one has yet to be updated, because it still works off Mongoose Bite and Butchery. However, the new Coordinated Assault cares about Kill Shot and Wildfire Bomb. We're not going to go into the specifics, but basically the idea is when you're having Coordinated Assault up, you'll be using Kill Shot and Wildfire Bomb. And Spearhead cares more about Kill Command and Raptor Strike or Mongoose Bite, whatever you choose to spec into. So this is interesting. I think right now I've timed Spearhead at roughly should be theoretically at around 30 seconds if you have a red bomb as you go into it. Basically the idea would be you would put a red bomb up on the target, then you'd go into Spearhead, you would jam 5 kill commands, getting 5 resets. Resetting kill command increases the duration of the buff, and then you would kind of start your window of Raptor striking into kill command and so on and so forth. So, cool ideas. Interested to see how these play out yet. We're not going to really give too much of an opinion on it because they have yet to be implemented, so we don't know how the overarching flow of our single target rotation is really going to come together. We have some interesting nodes like Kill Shot reducing Wildfire Bomb cooldowns. Should be really well with the new Coordinated Assault. And then Fury of the Eagle's back. Basically, it has been completely changed into an AoE ability. I think almost like a Fist of Fury that reduces the cooldown of Wildfire Bombs when it crits. And then we have bonus crit chance on execute target. So, pretty cool. A lot of the Pinnacle rows have interesting ideas going on, and I think it'll lead to a fun decision of you will probably always take Coordinated Assault, because it just seems to be like the beastly talent. It still seems like where they want us taking and having for both AoE and single target. And in an AoE situation, you'll probably be pushed towards Fear of the Eagle. And in a single target, you'll probably be pushed towards Spearhead. So, kind of cool. Let's go up to the top, though. So, now we're going to kind of slowly build a tree. And as we build the tree, we'll kind of see the problems that arise from this tree. So, obviously, you're taking Raptor Strike. Bomb is OP. We're taking Bomb. Predator, this is your kill command reset. So, we'll take that. Tip of the Spear. Single target. Taking that. Bloodseeker. All super strong talents. So we're 6 of 8 right now in this first section. And you may notice both Aspect and Harpooner here. However, we still have a throughput talent. This is an incredibly boring throughput talent, but is a throughput talent nonetheless. If this only affects our pet damage, this won't be significant, but it'll still be a throughput damage. However, if Kill Command is still under the banner of all pet damage, this will be a mandatory talent. So we're probably putting 2 points here in 8. And unfortunately, the way this tree is designed, you probably won't come back. And so that's kind of sucky, because right now, we're losing both our utility. And honestly, this is a pretty big identity of survival, is having Aspect and Harpoon and being this really mobile melee class. If you're going for a Mongoose build, you'll probably just take 1 point out of Ferocity and pick your poison, and you'll probably only get 1. Something to note, which is kind of a theme in some of the trees and is really annoying. So speaking to my Paladin players right now who have Avenging Wrath as a 3-minute cooldown and you need to spec into it to make it a 2-minute cooldown again, the same thing has happened with Harpoon. So Harpoon right now on retail is a 20-second cooldown. They have nerfed it to a 30, and then added the 10-second reduction of Harpoon level 2 on retail into terms of engagement. So this is the first problem point I would like to point out. I don't think terms of engagement has ever been popular. It's not a bad talent. There's just no real reason for us to get into it, and just there's stronger talents, there's more enjoyable talents on the tree. I wouldn't mind, personally, if they just did away with it. It is just not that powerful of a talent, and it's not that enjoyable of a playstyle to have it to continue on in this tree. Not to mention, it's just not good enough to warrant nerfing Harpoon. Like, that just feels bad. So, right off the bat, a quick suggestion would be maybe we'll flip these two. Put the 10 seconds back into Harpoon. So just have Harpoon where Eagle is right now. Make it a 20-second cooldown again. Have Eagle here. And potentially maybe have an upgraded Aspect of the Eagle. Survival is constantly looking for a reason to be invited to raids and groups for PvE. We could potentially have a node right here, just 1 point, and be like, Aspect of the Eagle now affects the melee abilities of your party members. I think that'd be really interesting. I think fights like Hungering, if you've ever done Hungering Destroyer as a survival hunter, and you know that Aspect of the Eagle lines up perfectly with his giant Devour where everyone has to move out. And when all the other melee are sitting there watching you Raptor strike the boss, maybe they can get in on that too. So, just a little bit of feedback. Maybe we switch these two, give us a cooldown back, make Aspect of the Eagle our rage utility. So, just moving forward down the tree. Ferocity. We're now in the 8 to 20 section. I guess I should mention Energetic Ally. From how I've rooted these trees and looking at these for the last couple weeks, this might be a dead talent completely. And that is in part due to Ferocity costing 2 and Tip costing 2. These should both be 1s. I think if they're both 1s, then you get your utility at the very least. However, I still just think these talents are there's so much mandatory talents up here that these are kind of just out of the way. And if we ever had spare points, like if we did a big suite of reducing all these 2s down to 1, we may be able to come back up and say pick up terms, pick up energetic. But as it stands, when you go through a section, you will not return. There's just too much power below you that you can't turn back. So there's just some food for thought. So let's just move down. Our next row is Guerrilla Tactics. This is one of the strongest talents in the current survival tree. So you'll probably take this close to 100%. I can't really imagine you playing content without this, no matter what your build is. If you're going into Mongoose Bite and picking up the Mongoose Bite support, you will still probably root your way down through Guerrilla Tactics. Range of your melee attacks is increased by 1 yard. This is obviously bugged. I believe it's currently set to be 3 yards. It's not a very powerful node, but it is a node nonetheless. A little bit of filler. And then we come up to our second problem node. Those familiar with survival will see Carve versus Butchery and say, this is Butchery every time. As Butchery stands currently on retail, it is a strict upgrade to Carve. There is not a world where you would want Carve over Butchery. And to put salt on the wounds, you will notice they took away the wildfire bomb reduction, made it into its own talent, and then added flanking strike to this. This is just node bloat to its finest extent. We have talents that have absolutely no reason to be paired up against one another. And then we also have the decoupling of passives from their abilities. Quick suggestion for this. Let's move this decision node down to this position. Obviously, we'd move this up into this position. Frenzy Strikes, let's bake these back into the abilities. Have the first ability in this location be Carve, and potentially have a decision node down here whether to upgrade into Butchery, or potentially bring back a legacy effect of bringing back some Serpent Sting spread. Because I know we've been missing that since about Legion. So it'd be kind of cool to see that functionality return. Quickly moving on, we have Mongoose Bite. Mongoose Bite damage. If you can see that Mongoose Bite is scaled, worse than Raptor Strike at the moment, and you have to take this node to bring it in line to Raptor Strike. Granted, Mongoose Bite still has the Mongoose Fury and the entirety of passive that creates. Flanking Strike has returned as a talent, standard. We then have another blank percentile damage node. This is going to be a running theme of this tree, and it's not even a slight increase. It is a 25% damage increase to bombs. If you have ever played survival in an AoE situation, you understand how absolutely nuts this is. This is a mandatory talent to the maximum. It is kind of weird that a talent that is this boring can be this powerful. And it is just disheartening that we have to take a talent and then in that line upgrade it. There's talents in here that affect Kill Command, which I can understand. Kill Command as a talent functions differently for the specs, and it may be required for survival to have Kill Command talents in order to make it play and have the same damage profile as it currently does on retail. However, there is no excuse for this. This is just lazy, and it's not needed. This 25% should just be baked into Wildfire Bomb. If you want us to have this, just let us have this. Let's put more legacy effects here, more unique passives. We have the highest amount of blank percent damage nodes. There's no need for this. Moving on, we have Intense Focus. Kill Command generates 3 focus or 6 focus. Interesting. Mainly because it's kind of on the flop side of Flanking Strike, so the idea, I guess, would be your Kill Command generates more versus every 30 seconds or less reduced with Frenzy Strikes. You'd have this Super Kill Command. And then we have probably the talent I like the least in this tree. Viper's Venom, but not like how you know it. Viper's Venom has now been changed to a flat 15% chance to put up Serpent Sting. So with just 1 point, you are incredibly likely single target to have this up the entire time. So much so that if I go into my neutral tree, when I have this extra point, it is probably not worth taking Serpent Sting. And that is a very annoying reality for survival. This is one of the 5 core abilities, and this talent has now invalidated its need to be taken in the neutral tier. And to top it off, it requires 2 points up to 30, which is unnecessary percentages, to get to Wildfire Infusion, which I would probably say is the most enjoyable passive in survival. In my world, survival is based off of Wildfire Infusion and either Tip of the Spear or Mongoose Bite management. And we are locking this behind probably the worst talent in this tree. So here's to that. Hopefully this gets changed. A flat crit damage. Again, I'm not a big fan of the flat percentages. However, crit damage is probably the least boring of what we're about to get into. And then we have the holy grail of we didn't know what to put here. Raptor Strike, Mongoose Bite, Butchery, Carve, all damage increased by 5%. Again, we are taking talents and then immediately speccing into a percent damage increase for them. Unnecessary should be replaced with a legacy effect. Again, tactical advantage, a flat damage increase to both Flanking Strike and Bomb. For some reason, on the opposite side of the tree of Bomb. I believe this might be here just to counteract the fact that if you are doing a Mongoose Bite build, they probably fear you not getting the same bomb damage as you would on this side, obviously with a 25% node. So they just kind of rooted in 8% damage here. This, again, another flat damage. Would like to see something else here. And if we really need this 8% damage, let's just put it into bomb. A cool talent, actually. This one just came out in the most recent build. And basically the idea is as you build up Mongoose Fury, this increases the chance to reset Kill Command. So this is sweet. This is a cool talent, and I am happy to see it. Moving down, we have Ranger. I am undecided on this talent. If you read it, obviously, it's basically all your shots get 20% damage, and the second point boosted up to 40. So the percentages are kind of ridiculous, and it's kind of boring, but I assume there's probably hunters out there who will enjoy this, so here's to them. Quick shots. This ability was Deadly Duo for a while, and it was terribly weak. And then they redid it, and it still seems terribly weak. And I have to imagine the reason why is they don't want it to function like the tier 4, or sorry, the 4-piece tier set right now. How you just go fishing for bomb procs and you just waste resources. This is the same thing. When a kill command resets, you have a 5% chance to shoot an arcane shot. It is drastically high, the amount of kill command resets you need in order to proc this. This is incredibly weak, and it seems so weak because they don't want you to fish. But yet, why would we even make this talent then if we're afraid of the degeneracy that could come from its playstyle? This seems like an easy decision to just replace and just get rid of it. So that's kind of the problems of tree. So if I was making a tree for single target, and this is not a single target build like Guardian, let's just assume you do a raid that has some level of AoE and you will be required to AoE at some point. My build would look something like this. We get all the bomb damage because bomb is massive. Any AoE scenario, bomb is king. We get Butchery over Carve because Butchery is strictly better. And I know I said I hate this talent, but I believe it will be required to get Red Bomb for Spearhead. I think the power that Red Bomb into Spearhead will cause every scenario you get Spearhead, you'll want to root over to Wildfire Bombs just for Red Bomb. And you will stack it so that you are only entering Spearhead with a Red Bomb. Just to build up that, like, I believe you get 7.5 seconds added to your 12-second Spearhead time just by entering with Red Bomb. So this is kind of what I have for what I believe will probably be mandatory. And honestly, throughout the expansion, if there is no changes to this tree, I don't know if you'll ever change. Personally, this might be pretty hard locked. It's also an incredibly strong AoE. There's probably an argument that you could rip out this package and just slot in Fury of the Eagle, potentially Explosive Expert. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And my goal is looking at these flat percentage nodes, as well as a couple of ones I deem to be poorly designed. What can we put in here? Because I see a lot of talk of like not enjoying it, but we need to offer some solutions. So what we're going to do real quick is we're just going to run back through some legacy effects that we could possibly use. So we're going to start off with the Legion legendaries. As said earlier, we have Frizzo's Finger Trap. The important part to notice here is when you carve an enemy affected by Lacerate, Lacerate spreads to one other target hit by Carve. This, I think, would be a strong decision note against Butchery, like I said. And I think this would be an enjoyable playstyle. For sustained cleave, spreading around Serpent Sting, versus Butchery, which should give this upfront damage boost. We have NTA, which I never want to play with again, so hopefully this stays in the past. An interesting legendary. I don't think the way this is currently iterated on will the Rope of the Mist Marauder be a strong talent for the future survival, but I think it has a cool idea in it. So what this does is the first time you harpoon a target, your damage done to the target is increased by 30% for 10 seconds. There's this little caveat of it's based on distance. Personally, I ignore that. I think this is a cool idea to have a momentum-esque build for survival. If you don't know what momentum is a playstyle for Demon Hunters, Havoc, and it involves Fell Rushing in and Vengeful Retreating out, not in that order, in reverse order actually. And you're going to Vengeful Retreat out and Fell Rush in to have a damage boost as well as generate resources. And the idea of this is going to keep doing this over and over again to have this resource generation and bonus damage, and it kind of makes you kind of flipping and dashing around the entire map, being the most circus-like DPS imaginable. Granted, it is a hard-to-play playstyle. I though think it's interesting and could be incorporated into survival somehow. Butcher's Bone Apron is currently a legendary on retail. I think this one's designed poorly. The idea that Raptor Strikes should be boosting Butchery or Carve, I think is just wrong. I think if this was Kill Command, almost a tip of the spear for Carve and Butchery, this could be interesting. Let's move into the Azurite traits. Latent Poison is currently in the neutral tree. Two other noticeables are Wildfire Cluster, which is currently a legendary, as well as Wilderness Survival. Wilderness Survival basically is, as you Raptor Strike, you reduce the cooldown of your bomb. It takes the Carve effect and puts it and gives it single target relevancy. So it's pretty cool. I guess also too, a good mention would be Primeval and Blur. This is like Birds of Prey, but instead of extending the duration, it would make your cooldown better. So I think these are enjoyable. Let's just look at a current Soulbind. Currently, Flame Infusion. Flame Infusion, I believe, is just... It is surprising to me that we have a flat wildfire damage buff when this Soulbind exists. So what this Soulbind does is when you carve, it increases the damage of your next bomb by 5%, stacking 2 times. Seems absolutely perfect for Butchery, and just seems to be really overlooked, and I don't know why this is... We have so many flat damage increases. Yes, this is a damage increase, and it's not super interesting, but it's more interesting, and it might make you make a decision of if you're playing Butchery, and you think you can sneak in 2 Butcheries without overcapping your bomb, just so you have a stronger bomb. Obviously, this scales a lot more than just that, but there's that. And Strength of the Pack. We had a blue post recently saying they have no intention to change Survival's Mastery. Honestly, I was hoping this would be our new Mastery. Currently, Mastery is increase focus, increase the damage of our abilities that cost focus for both us and our pet, as well as Spirit Bond, which is a scaling health per 5, I believe, for both us and our pet. And it just... If you've ever had a high Mastery in, let's say, Torghast or PvP, it doesn't scale particularly well, the healing part. And the damage portion is just a worse versatility. So it's almost like if they just added this on, and let's just say it started at, who knows, 2%, I guess 3.5% is on our screen, and as our mastery increased, when kill command reset, we had this increasing damage window. I think this would be enjoyable as either a talent. This possibly could go ahead of Spearhead instead of a flat kill command damage, and maybe we could wrap our kill command damage. Let's just go take a look at our tree. Let's wrap kill command and our pet damage together into one node, maybe make it a 1-point node. This node would be extremely powerful, but if you're going to make flat damage mandatory and needed for our damage profile, let's make it as low cost as possible. Get it out of the way early and just forget about it. And then finally, let's look at our legendaries. So currently we have Butcher's Bone Fragment, which was we seen in the Legion Legendary. Latent Rice Stalkers, which I believe is just a worse version of Survival Instincts. The RNG of this is terrible. And again, Cluster. Cluster on the forms, to me, is the most asked for, most demanded ability. It is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly dangerous for Survival's damage profile, because right now, if you've done a Mythic Plus dungeon, you understand that this talent is your highest damage source. So there's some tuning that needs to look into this if this is to return. It seems very clear that this should go above Fear of the Eagle. I think people would, even if it was a nerfed version of it, I think people will be way more excited to see the return of Wildfire Cluster versus kill, command, reset, shoot an arcane shot. So, I hope a couple looks at those legendaries, those soulbinds, a couple conduits, some Azurite traits. We don't have a ton. We are a new class, or newer class. But there is definitely legacy effects that we can add to fill these holes that are just way more creative and way more fun than what we currently are dealing with. And I still think there's a ton of stuff that the developer can just create that are more interesting than these nodes. Like we've seen it with the Coordinated Assault and the Spearhead. I think it's also worth mentioning, on a positive note, the developer for Hunter is incredibly communicative to us. And we should not be lashing out or attacking him. He is by far the developer who is in contact with his player base the most. And we should be thankful for that. But I think we can do better than this. I'm of the personal copium belief that Marksman and BM are down pretty bad. And Survival is the least played spec of the three. So my copium right now is he is working on Beast Mastery and Marksman. And that after Marksman and BM are done, hopefully, praying, he'll take another look at Archery. But that's all I got for you today, guys. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. Have a great day.